here on KBLA Talk 1580, and I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the one-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong Black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I gonna go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that Black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1 year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
This KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall is sponsored by LA Fire Justice.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is January 5th, 2026. We are just 5 days into the new year, and the world is upside down. Movie Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and the J Lunch Club. We are here, and we're going to be talking about all things Maduro, Venezuela, South America, the Voting Rights Act, the consequences for the elections in the midterms of 2026, the amazing silence of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, who at this hour find themselves in the exact same position that African Americans, more than 62 of them elected to the Congress of the United States and presently serving, all of whom are running for re-election in the midterms, along with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Let's not forget that. But the silence from the unprecedented threats and the action taken in Venezuela, including the arrest of their president, President Nicolas Maduro, threats against Mexico, promising the people of Colombia that the Colombians are up next. Just keep talking, just keep making fun of Donald Trump and Marco Rubio with even more bravado. FAFO. That's what he said. And presently he's trying to avoid being called the Viceroy of Venezuela. I wonder sometimes, given his South American heritage, what must really be going on in his mind to know that he's bombing countries that are so central to his native heritage. Yes, even threats against Cuba. We cannot separate what's going on in South America from the president renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. We are looking at an unprecedented expansionist vision of U.S. imperialism in South America, not to exclude the possibility of an expansion in Greenland. And you thought your vote did not matter. You thought it did not count. I was looking at some numbers over the weekend where some suggest that African American men voted for Donald Trump 17%. Overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris, 83%, but that 17% has now shrunk over the last 9 months, 10 months, 11 months to 6%. African American men are feeling and bearing the brunt of a major mistake that 17% of them made when they did not see Kamala Harris. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Mr. Krim's classroom. Mr. Ernest Krim is a contributor on multiple platforms. He has more than 4 million followers. He teaches or has taught high school education. He continues a public ministry of educating the nation on Black history with more than 4 million followers as of 2024. Ernest, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hey, what's up, brother? Happy New Year to you.
Man, I'm doing all right now. How you doing in the new year?
Oh, man, I'm doing okay. Again, I always have to say with the caveat of considering the state of the world, I'm doing great. I'm trying to keep myself plugged in, but still away from the constant news cycle so that I just have enough to chime in without going crazy.
Ernest, what is your take on the unprecedented actions by the president of the United States in Venezuela and the subsequent threats that he has been making to most South American countries?
Yeah, my first thought was I still can't believe this guy is our president, if I'm being honest. That's the first initial thought I had. Although it's been almost a year, it still seems very unbelievable that we are in the midst of this and we're just starting very soon year 2 of this charade. To me, it harkens back to many periods of times I have taught about while in the classroom. When I think about Manifest Destiny, when I think about the Louisiana Purchase, and when I think about the Mexican-American War and how America, this country, when I say America, I want to be very clear when we talk about this. We're not talking about this ideal of something that's beyond us. We're talking about people who have come together to institute and enforce a government with this white supremacist imperialist mindset. These are people converging together to make this choice since 1776 and beyond. I think about this appetite for more that has never been quenched, that is never been full. This avariciousness, this greed to say that we're going to take indigenous land time and time again. And when we get to the end of that coast, I always would tell my students that when we got to the end, we started island hopping and we never stopped. And we have never been satisfied with that. And I feel like Trump is proud to be in that same lineage and heritage, unfortunately.
I am Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're talking about world events today. We're talking about the way in which also the Voting Rights Act and whether or not our representatives are going to speak up against what we all witnessed, the unprecedented occupation of the country of Venezuela by the President of the United States in the name of the American people. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward right here on KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code STATE.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Moving Mountain Mondays, and more specifically, we are in the classroom with Mr. Ernest Krim, our regular Monday afternoon contributor. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, what's up, brother? It's good to be back with you.
Brother, let me just share with you and get your insights on the extraordinary damage that Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, and the minions around the court of the imperial presidency of Donald Trump have done to the credibility of the United States and the international community. And how many decades, if ever, it will take to regain the trust of our neighbors, our allies in Europe, to the idea that America stands for freedom, for justice, and that we are not an imperial power that is only looking for critical minerals, resources, and opportunities to use the United States military to loot the deindustrialized, underindustrialized, and the poor throughout the world. It's just impossible not to see it. We spent trillions of dollars from the Cold War to the present, stockpiling so much ammunition we couldn't use it in 100 years. That's how much ammunition we have to justify the size of our military budget. And then we find these little skiffs off of Somalia to shoot with our military, the most sophisticated weapons known to mankind. We find these little drug boats, if that's what they are. The Venezuelans, the Colombians, they say they're fishermen. Now, those fishermen, by the way, Colombians and Venezuelans, are traveling pretty fast. I ain't never seen nobody fishing that fast, so doesn't look like fishing to me. But certainly it's a matter for the Coast Guard, not a matter for the USS Gerald Ford and the carrier strike groups that are positioned in the South American coast and literally occupying and terrorizing the people of Colombia, the people of Venezuela, the threats to the people of Mexico, and even threatening the regime in Cuba. Mr. Krim, can you share some thoughts on the long-term implications of American credibility and how quickly Donald Trump is spending the nation's goodwill?
If you just think in the historical context of where we were roughly 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the last few months or the last year of Obama's presidency, you think about just even what that meant symbolically to the world. It appeared as if America, for the first time throughout our history, which has often been rife with contradictions glaringly across the world for everybody to see, from the civil rights movement before that and beyond, it seemed like we were headed in the right direction. And again, you have to think about this from the perspective of people who have never been here, and they can only be taught about what the American empire or the American dream is based on news headlines, the entertainment industry, and so on and so forth. To steer in to take such a 180-degree turn is unfortunate, and it's scary to me, honestly, man, because when I think about what this means for not just how we're viewed, but what this means for our relations moving forward. And it's almost just like you said, it can take you years upon years to build an edifice, a skyscraper, a brilliant structure. It only takes a second to tear it down. When this time period is gone, how much longer will it take for us to regain that reputation? And it's not just people in South America. It's not just folks in Europe or even Africa. There are folks right next to us. We're closing in. We're being submerged. We're isolating ourselves. The way we're talking about Mexico, the way we're talking about Canada, the way we're talking about Greenland. This guy approaches everything as if it's a video game, as if it's Monopoly in real life. Venezuelans already had there was already a negative connotation associated with our brothers and sisters who were coming here for Venezuela. Now, based on this, what damage does this even do to how Latinos are viewed in this country? When we think about that in comparison to how Muslims were treated after 9/11, and when we think about that in comparison to how Asians were treated during the pandemic, this is going to have consequences that we have not actually started to grapple with yet.
You know, I think that I think that might be the reason for the silence of the Hispanic caucus. They don't know what they're looking at, particularly those conservative Latinos who voted for Donald Trump, who some have argued came to the United States specifically to assimilate into their perceptions of what Western culture and what white means in the world, only to find out that here in the United States, they're just as black as us. What happened to Nicolas Maduro and his wife is the same thing they did to the Venezuelans on 75th and South Shore Drive. They didn't care that he was in Venezuela. They broke into his house. They broke into 75th and South Shore Drive here in the city of Chicago. It's frustrating. Gina, go ahead and play that clip.
In the Venezuelan capital, few are venturing out. Streets remained largely empty, save for lineups seen at the grocery stores that remained open and modest waits at some gas stations, as a sense of unease settles in. I tried to stay calm because I have small children, she says, but she admits the uncertainty makes her anxious. In the hours after the U.S. military's explosive operation to capture Nicolas Maduro and bring him to a New York City court on narco-terrorism and conspiracy charges, the deposed leader projected defiance.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Saying Happy New Year in front of the U.S. government social media teams capturing his every step. Defiance shared by his remaining supporters back home. In a televised address, the defense minister accused the U.S. of violating and breaching Venezuela's sovereignty, announcing Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president, is now in charge. He also rejected Donald Trump's assertion the U.S. is taking control.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Trump is ratcheting up the pressure, directly threatening Venezuela's new leader, telling the news outlet The Atlantic, if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro.
And so we expect to see more compliance and cooperation than we were previously receiving.
In a series of interviews, the U.S. Secretary of State suggested the Trump administration won't directly lead Venezuela. Instead, he says the U.S. will use its resources to try to pressure Venezuela into adopting policy changes, including stopping the flow of illegal drugs, pushing American adversaries out of the country, and allowing U.S. companies into Venezuela's oil industry.
And the goal of the policy is to see changes in Venezuela that are beneficial to the United States, first and foremost, because that's who we work for, but also, we believe, beneficial for the people of Venezuela.
The mission and its aftermath dividing U.S. lawmakers. Some accuse Trump of waging an illegal operation.
Maduro's a horrible, horrible person, but you don't treat lawlessness with other lawlessness, and that's what's happened here. When America tries to do regime change and nation building in this way, the American people pay the price in both blood and in dollars.
Trump is broadly dismissing all criticism, saying this is different than American interventions in the past because he says Venezuela is like a neighbor. He is demanding full access to everything in the country, telling reporters on board Air Force One that the U.S. is in charge, which contradicts what his Secretary of State suggested hours earlier.
And Katie, Trump is making it clear tonight his ambitions go beyond Venezuela.
Yeah, Ian, Trump made remarkable comments again, insisting the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons and that Denmark isn't able to protect the territory. And he said an operation in Colombia sounds like a good idea to him.
Colombia.
And my brother Jesse is muted, so I'll start until he unmutes himself.
Thank you very much. You know, I was in a barbershop the other day and I was listening to a conversation. I apologize. I had my head down just nodding it from this scene that we just saw, this clip. And the conversation ended up that Black and brown people around the world, they need the bomb. They need the bomb. That the only way to stop the cyclical CIA covert activity that takes place in their countries to loot them of their natural resources is that we now have to acquire the bomb. Now, that wasn't my idea. That's the conversation that was taking place in a barbershop. And I'm thinking in this moment that when the Afrikaners were in charge of South Africa, they had the bomb. But they had a bomb that they were prepared to use on the African majority to significantly reduce their population in their own country. They were prepared to use the bomb locally. And they dismantled the bomb when the apartheid regime failed. And I believe the United States even helped them dismantle the bomb. Now, with 300 billion gallons of oil, the Venezuelan people, the Nigerians, and other countries around the world to keep the United States from threatening them need the bomb. That was the argument that was being made in a barbershop. Your thoughts, Ernest?
You know, we are creating an unprecedented level of fear. When you think about, I'm glad you mentioned that because right after Christmas, right, this country bombed Nigeria. Even domestically, we're talking about child care services being cut because of a hoax of a video about Somali Americans, right? We're dealing with so many issues, and it really pains me to constantly be on the landmass that was created by the bully that this nation is. Because like you said, when you create an unprecedented level of fear, then some people will cower, of course. Some people will capitulate and give, and others will respond emotionally out of a fear of survival, right? And we have to always be cognizant of what this might look like in terms of blowback with anybody. Because like I was saying previously, he already created a climate of anti-Latino sentiment when he began to run on the campaign trail in 2015. And he keeps putting out this paranoia, drug dealers, they're this, they're that. And then he goes in there, right, and kidnaps this guy to arrest him. There were already people from Venezuela fleeing that regime to come here. But now what is going to be put in folks' mind, whether they be from Venezuela, whether they be from Nigeria, whether they be from Haiti, right, Cuba, maybe even Denmark and some of the white nations, the paranoia would be that they are coming here to cause us harm, when we know that folks are coming here for a better life. And but even with that said, the reality is we do have to also be aware that some folks will be angry. And why wouldn't they be? You could correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the stories I've seen have said casualties were at least 40, right? So in order for them to arrest Maduro, 40 civilians at least killed, people minding their business, right? And we're not saying that this guy was running a country perfectly, but we understand that there are laws in place to make sure that things can be done in a more efficient manner. I don't think there's anybody in this country, you know, and I can't say anybody, but those of us listening to this, right? I don't think any of us would agree with the fact that if somebody wanted to capture Trump, that it would be okay to kill 40 of us. That's where we are.
I find that fascinating because We've said that the election to elect President Maduro was not handled properly. And Maduro says that he was duly elected by the people, even though international advisors suggested that the election had serious complications. We have the President of the United States calling the Secretary of State of a state, looking for 1,200 new votes. We have a Attorney General in the United States who for 2 years did not prosecute the offenses that Jack Smith is bringing before the Congress and sharing the details of the criminal indictment against Donald Trump that he was pursuing. I see so many parallels and corollaries between Donald Trump and Nicolas Maduro that I almost can't see straight. Donald Trump talking about the idea of a third term, which is unconstitutional. Nicolas Maduro holding on to power in his own country, unconstitutional. I mean, the authoritarian imperialistic playbook is so filled with hypocrisy and problems that there is no true arbiter of what constitutes justice, fairness, the rule of law, international law, and democracy. I'm deeply troubled by what's taking place in Venezuela. I had no idea that it would be right here on 75th and South Shore Drive here in the city of Chicago, just 3 blocks from my home. But it is the exact same story. Netanyahu's not being arrested. We spent trillions of dollars to fight the Soviet Union and to fight the Russians. We are not using our weapons to fight them. We're fighting the poorest people in the world with the most sophisticated weapons known to mankind. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show in Ernest Krim's classroom. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says it's unclear whether President Trump can successfully run Venezuela, arguing Trump has not improved conditions here at home.
It remains to be seen whether the people of Venezuela are going to be better off.
Speaking on Meet the Press, Jeffries pointed to rising costs and what he called a Republican healthcare crisis. Trump has said the U.S. will oversee Venezuela until a transitional government is in place. President Trump is claiming there have been no homicides in Washington, D.C. since last summer, a statement he made during a Saturday news conference. However, city crime data contradicts that claim, showing 5 homicides last month and nearly 60 killings reported in the past 6 months. And Columbia County, New York is marking a historic moment with the swearing in of a new sheriff. Jackie Salvatore took the oath of office on Friday, becoming the first Black woman to serve as sheriff anywhere in New York State. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36. LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code STATE.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in Mr. Krim's classroom on the J Lunch Club. Mr. Krim, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
Hey, Ernest, let me ask you another question. I want to comment. I want to comment on the paralysis in national leadership, particularly the Black Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus, in this hour, because I think we do need national voices. But as you know, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is being greatly challenged in the courts as we speak. Within the next week or so, maybe the next 2 weeks, a decision could likely come down on the Robinson versus Clay decision. And I suspect that the paralysis includes that half of the Black Caucus may not be there in the next session of Congress. We go from 62 to 30 members. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus will most certainly be divided in half. And they're probably all saying to themselves, Venezuela is not my problem. But Venezuela is our problem. Because Nigeria's up next. Greenland's up next. Cuba's up next. Increases in military spending means less money for healthcare, housing, education, for domestic programs, for the needs that we need in our own country, supplemental nutrition and assistance program, monies that we need to provide tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. It is our problem. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Never sin for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Professor Krim?
You know what I think as an educator, I often reflect on what I would say if I was in the classroom today to young children who are trying to decide what career they should go into with this ever-evolving marketplace, right? The AI boom, and there's just so much that is changing even within the past year or so, right? And I think about the local economy. Of course, you know, I'm in the Chicago area, southwest suburb now, and I look at some parts of the town where there used to be businesses where there are now just military recruitment stations. And I think about that in comparison to this. And I think about that in comparison to how much you can make if you join ICE, regardless of your ethnic background, to terrorize a community that could look like yours. We are at a place now, especially for Black folks, lower class folks economically, The unfortunate reality is this is creating a precedent where the most lucrative thing for our children to do with their time is to continue to perpetuate this imperialist state. Now, that's not what we want them to do, but how can I stand in front of a group of kids, and I still do this though, and tell them that you should become a teacher and come out, maybe you make 40,000, maybe 50,000, get your master's, maybe you make a few thousand more, versus I don't even know if you need a degree to join ICE. And what are you making, 150,000? You're making as much as a principal, a superintendent, you get a $50,000 signing bonus. My barber, one of my barbers, is a gentleman who joined the military in the 80s because he didn't feel like he had any options. And he was in Panama. And I can't wait to sit down and talk to him because about what happened over the weekend with Venezuela, because the previous conversation we have always had talked about how he felt like as a young Black man who was able to graduate without being able to barely read, that was the place that he was most welcome because he was about to flunk out of college. And we would often always talk too about, although he was able to get some things financially to start businesses and things like that, that he still deals with a lot of PTSD, that he has to deal with a lot of issues at the VA.
Let me tell you about my PTSD. I mean, I'm not a millennial, but I remember Oliver North. I remember the Reagan administration.
Mm-hmm.
The millennials weren't even born yet. A lot of them are running for Congress right now.
Yeah.
But I remember when the United States allowed the Contras to sell dope in the United States to make a profit. They took the money back to South America to buy arms from Ronald Reagan with Colonel Oliver North. The United States has been destabilizing governments in South America, allowing dope in the United States for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Congressional hearings, senatorial hearings, 60 Minutes, when we did have a national press, exposed all of this. And now, with whatever deals the Biden administration worked out and the administration before that administration worked out with South American leadership to help curtail the flow of drugs into the United States, all of our involvement in all of that. Here comes Trump rewriting the entire script, which isn't just about drug reduction, but he put it firmly on the table. They're sitting on 300 billion barrels of oil, and it belongs to us. And U.S. oil companies are welcome in Venezuela. I'm wondering, with the capture of your president, Venezuela, why has no one declared war on the United States? If someone came here and captured the president, the king on our chessboard, the president of the United States, the sun would not set before the American people would move in the direction of war or capture Marco Rubio.
Right.
Some federal official who's engaged in this charade. Why is no one declaring war on the United States? Now, I'm not advocating for that. Obviously, I'm not advocating for that. But I'm wondering what the arrangement is. That when your government is destabilized, you just kind of sit there and accept the occupation. And from my perspective, that's just unacceptable. I mean,
yeah. Well, we're the big bad bully on the block, you know, and unfortunately, because of how much we've invested in our military over the years, as you said, in place of investing in communities, in place of making sure everyone is fed and has a flourishing economy, we have invested in this very thing for centuries, and he has taken it and catapulted it to another level when we're at a point with the awareness that we have, the access to information, with the struggles that people have had globally and domestically, where we are ready, we are begging for something different. And we're seeing this in so many local elections across the country. And to your point too, with the approval rate that Donald Trump has in our community as well, how that has, of course, dissipated, unsurprisingly.
You know, I'm thinking about the movie Clear and Present Danger, where the United States for decades, through the intelligence communities, has negotiated with these countries, with the cartels, to reduce the supply of drugs flowing into the United States. That's just a fact. That's not just made for movie stuff. That's a fact. But at the end of the day, we didn't go to their countries and claim their natural resources or their critical mineral resources as our own. That's some doctrine of discovery kind of stuff. That's exactly what happened to the Native Americans. And the American people are going to have to rise up with their votes in the midterms to reject this kind of authoritarianism. Our children who are studying abroad are less safe today. Our diplomats are less safe today. American citizens traveling around the world are less safe today. American diplomats are in a bargaining position for peace, for hostages and others around the world, that the bargaining position itself has fundamentally changed as a result of what took place just a few short days ago. America has lost moral authority. It is just purely gunboat, big stick, bully politics that has no place for free-thinking people.
Let's not forget that nobody's talking about the Epstein files anymore. Let's not forget that this guy shouldn't even technically be president, should not have been allowed to run for president. And I think it's important to understand that with a person like him, and I think about, 20 years ago when I was, more than 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, during George W.'s first term, I think about how oftentimes a president would love to incite conflict or incite a war because it can be used as a rallying cry for unity. I don't know if we're even there in this country. I don't know if we're at that place right now with the way that we view him as people. But also, too, I love the point you made about how everybody who's abroad is at risk at this point. He is creating an environment where we have to, in many ways, rely on the very thing that is tearing us apart.
My mother once told me, and I'm prepared as we get ready to go to our break. I told my mother that I want to study abroad or even live abroad many, 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 many years ago. She said, "No, you don't." She said, "You don't want to be anywhere near the receiving end of what America can do to another country. You want to be right here where America cannot drop a bomb on you." And I don't believe that's true anymore either. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're with Mr. Krim in his classroom. More when we come forward on KBLA.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of the utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? what thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-237-8585. That's 800-237-8585. Again, that's 800-237-8585.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
Jackson Jr., welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's the J Lunch Club. So grateful that Ernest is joining us in this hour, our first show that's live of the new year. I'm so grateful, Mr. Krim, that you are here.
Hey, thanks again for having me, brother. It's good to be back with you.
You know, brother, I'm not going to call this brother's name because today he is an author, a community mentor, an entrepreneur. He has redeemed his life. But even in Los Angeles in the 80s, centered around an activity that was taking place between the Contras, the Iranians, the Reagan administration, the George Bush administration. And by the way, President George W. Bush was the director of the Central Intelligence Agency for a number of years before he became vice president of the United States, and was a very well-respected member of the intelligence community as vice president and president of the United States. He was actually an unusual president in that he was part of the intelligence community who emerged as president of the United States. And so the details of operations, George W. Bush was well aware of our relationship with all kinds of entities all over the world and all kinds of activity that takes place in South America. The United States, I read as early as today, has been responsible for supporting a number of regimes in South America, maybe as many as 24, that have undermined popular sovereignty and popular democratic movements in order to take advantage of the interests that the United States finds on the ground in that country, the most blatant version of which is taking place and playing out with a president that doesn't even know how to hide behind the intelligence community. He's just going to put it all out there. This is what I'm going to do. But we've been doing it all the while down there. We've been doing it in Cuba. We've been doing it in Venezuela. We've been doing it in South America for decades. Remember the Bay of Pigs. We've been doing it. And so I'm sitting here saying to myself, now that it's all in the open, it's becoming increasingly clear to me that one Latin American country at a time cannot challenge the United States in this hemisphere. You almost need a United States of South America. One government, every local little country being its own governor of your little province, your culture, and whatever form of your culture that should be and must be preserved. But it is impossible in a global economy for little old countries in Africa to negotiate against the United States by themselves. I mean, just one country at a time, because the United States, you can't pick Georgia off from the United States. You can't pick Alabama off. You may not like what the governor says, but you can't pick them off. We are the United States. And the absence of a confederation within these countries is a factor in whether or not they are able to compete in the global economy and even be respected in the global marketplace. So whether it's Gaddafi in Libya, or whether it's Toure, the brother in Burkina Faso, everyone arguing for one currency in Africa, because our little currencies with all of these little presidents with their little faces on their little worthless dollars, running around in their little country with the pride with their on money that don't spend nowhere else but locally, is a problem if we are not united around how these poor countries, Brother Krim, relate to the global economy and to the rest of the world.
Well, you preaching internationally with the message for us domestically too, because like you said previously, this does matter to us in terms of how the money is being spent and then how people of color are viewed, right? We don't have any leverage domestically unless we are unified to some degree with people amongst various classes in our immediate community across different state lines. This is why there was such a call for, I would say, even with Malcolm X, reaching out to the international community. We must unite here. We must unite abroad, because what we are dealing with here is the same thing that other folks are dealing with. The issues that we see here happening with Venezuela, 40 people at least being killed with this bomb before Maduro was arrested, is, again, 41 years ago, the police dropped the bomb on the Black community, the MOVE community in Philly, right? Like, these are some of the same issues that we see as above, so below. And to that point, brother, like, for me, if I'm a Latin American leader of a country, you have to be, in a sense, trembling, because there's never too much. You can never give this man enough. He's going to continue as a leech to want more and demand more. Eventually, somebody has to put their foot down and stand up. And if there is no united front, then what we will begin to see is that entire region will topple. Like, this is, to me, this book I read years ago called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This is metaphorically America continuing to expand the Walmarts across the country, the McDonald's, the Walgreens on every corner. That's what that is, y'all, metaphorically. And this does not end well for anyone involved, especially for us who are the most vulnerable. We ain't talking about the billionaires and the eventual trillionaires. This is something that will impact us all on the ground, because also, to the point you made before, we have to be very curious and to wonder if they flooded our streets with drugs in the 80s, after they essentially took away our economic base with the manufacturing jobs and things like that. We have to ponder, 40 years later, we're still recovering from that. We're still recovering from Reaganomics. What might they be doing right now that will come out 10, 20, 30 years later? We have to be aware, because, again, the jobs are leaving, the economy is shifting. And they want to add AI data centers to every community where you live without employing the people. Our minimum wage in this country hasn't gone up in almost 20 years. There is no desire to employ you or compensate you well unless you are on the side of the empire. Otherwise, for our middle class folks, they're ready to push you in that funnel, that school to prison pipeline, that school to prison nexus. They want you to go right down the street to 26 in California, Statesville, wherever other prison in California and beyond.
You know, we need middle-class jobs in America. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. Middle-class jobs. Middle class jobs, not AI jobs, robot jobs, not just minimum wage jobs, although there ought to be a minimum floor beneath which no American falls, with health care, with benefits, with the ability to live, to have a mortgage, to provide for your families, to send them to school, to college. But middle class jobs are disappearing in the AI economy. Middle class jobs. And therefore what? We end up having to rent for our families. People who own their homes and sell them, but ultimately, when they can't sell them, we end up renting from someone who owns multiple homes because they can't stay in all of the homes at the same time. Middle class jobs are disappearing. And they're disappearing as a result of automation and in some cases, just absolute lack of planning. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We've enjoyed you, Mr. Krim. Look forward to seeing you again next Monday.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
More on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 and the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says it's unclear whether President Trump can successfully run Venezuela, arguing Trump has not improved conditions here at home.
It remains to be seen whether the people of Venezuela are going to be better off.
Speaking on Meet the Press, Jeffries pointed to rising costs and what he called a Republican healthcare crisis. Trump has said the U.S. will oversee Venezuela until a transitional government is in place. President Trump is claiming there have been no homicides in Washington, D.C. since last summer, a statement he made during a Saturday news conference. However, city crime data contradicts that claim, showing 5 homicides last month and nearly 60 killings reported in the past 6 months. And Columbia County, New York is marking a historic moment with the swearing in of a new sheriff. Jackie Salvatore took the oath of office on Friday, becoming the first Black woman to serve as sheriff anywhere in New York State. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36. LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.